Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Online Course Creator Show. Today, I wanted to talk about the 9 steps to make 100K from your online course in 1 year. Now, I wanted to talk about this because I think that we all really need to stop looking at launching online courses as a one launch scenario and actually start looking at it from at least a minimum of 12 months. And that is where the real success is. And that's where you are actually going to be able to scale an online course and it to be able to have a massive impact on your business and on the rest of your life, as well as setting you up for a really good foundation to then scale even further and beyond that first 100K, where you can actually take this thing as big as you want, right? And regardless of whether it's the same course or you decide you want to change offers or you want to have more than one offer, it doesn't really matter. But the fact is this model is so scalable, yet I see so many people not really giving it a decent enough go. So that's where I want to shift that mindset. So it's more about what can you achieve in 12 months versus what can you achieve in one launch. Because it is not about one launch, it's about what you can achieve by launching it, by validating it that first time and making sure that people want it. So using your first launch as the vehicle to do that instead of the vehicle to how much money I can make. So there's ways that we can basically decide from our first launch if the course is validated or not, which is largely down to a conversion rate. And from there, then go into the next launch and the next launch and the next launch, and each launch get bigger each time. But not only that you actually set up a more streamlined system with every single launch. And the majority of the work is actually done in that first launch. And then you really get to reap the rewards from the subsequent launches. However, far too many people give up by this point because they haven't had the 50 grand launch from their first course launch, right? And unfortunately, this is what we get told online, that's like you literally click your fingers and you're going to make 50K from an online course product, which is absolutely not true. And if you've been through the launching process or you've created an online course and put it out there, you know this isn't true. And I think one of the things that I really bring to the table is that I know how to launch courses even if you have a small audience. And that is a real hack. And a lot of the people out there teaching online course launches, they rely on a big audience to get results. However, being able to strategically create an offer and have it convert and actually have good launches is something that you're not going to learn from everyone. And an example of that, I recently had a student who had not even 300 followers on Instagram, and they were literally a couple of $100 away from having a 10K launch in their first launch, which is amazing. So what I'm saying here is that the size of your audience does not always dictate your launch. If you have a bigger audience, you definitely have a serious advantage, but also you still need to bring in the strategy and make sure that it's what people want and actually validate the course, because you can have a big launch, a big audience, and still have a launch that theoretically flops, or an offer that does not get validated because not enough people with a big audience actually went for it. So I'm getting a bit away from the main topic here, but all of this to say that your first course launch shouldn't be about how much money you can make regardless of the size of your audience. It should actually be, given the size of your audience, how can we validate that people actually want this course? And then using that as the base, because by now you've done the majority of the work, right? Which is great. And you create the course after you sell it. So the course is done by the time you create the second launch. And then you can really focus on getting better and better and better at the launches, because you're not doing all of that work up front. And you also allow yourself to walk a lot of people through the program, more and more people with each launch, and actually figure out the system that's going to help people really get results. And you're going to get more and more testimonials over time, which in turn makes each launch easier and easier to sell. Like if you know people want the product, that kind of thing is just going to improve your marketing over time and make it more of a compelling offer. So really going at it with this one launch focus and then walking away because for whatever reason it didn't meet your expectations. Maybe you believed all of those people that say you're going to basically click your fingers and put a course out there and people are going to purchase it the minute you share it on Instagram. Or, maybe you do go through the more thorough launching process, which is fully my philosophy. And for whatever reason it doesn't meet your expectations. I mean, maybe your expectations were completely off anyway, and you were really just wanting to get that huge volume of sales, but didn't really know what it took to get there or know that your audience wasn't actually big enough to achieve that. But then, whatever the reason, you walk away and go, online course launching doesn't work, or I tried to create an online course and it was just so much hard work and it's not for me, and I'm going to go back to working one-on-one with clients, even though that is often the thing that's burning us out and not fulfilling us and not lighting us up. So I see this again and again, so I really want to shift that mindset too. It's not about that first launch, and let's stop putting so much focus on that. And if we look at it from a 12-month perspective, hitting 100K in your business just simply from online course sales is achievable for anyone over a 12-month period if you stay in the game and have that longer term focus. Yes, you need to have a good offer, and that's really what that first launch is about. It's really the sole role of that first launch. And you can learn how to create an epic offer in my short program, Create Your Dream Offer, which you can get. It's only $97, and you get a $97 credit to Moneymakers when that launches. So it's basically free, girl math. You can get that at loublakely.com/offer. And that will actually walk you through the process of creating an offer that is way more likely to succeed than just randomly thinking up an online course idea and putting it out there. And it's a really quick program. You will get through it in around about 5 hours, and it walks you through actually how to create the offer as you go. So you will finish those lessons having taken the action that you need to have a great offer to put out there. So there is definitely that resource that is going to help you get past the point of what should I even offer? And that is what holds most people back and means you never get started. So there's that side of it. Yes, we need to work on the offer, and yes, we need to do that first launch. But that first launch is not everything. There are some really well-known course creators online who actually had a first online course launch that did not go that well, who now still have that product. And it is now hugely successful, as are they. One example of that is Amanda Frances. You may or may not follow her. She is quite well known. She has a large audience. So she has an online program. I would call it a signature online program. She is a money mindset coach. So her course is called Money Mentality Makeover. And it's huge. I don't know the numbers in terms of how many thousands of people she's had through it, but it makes her millions of dollars. And the first time she launched it, she only had 4 people sign up. Now, there's a lot of people who would say not to run it and pull the pin. But for whatever reason, and it could have been that it is actually based on the size of her audience at the time, it was probably a validated offer. So that gave her the sign to move forward. Or it could have simply been that she knew that people needed this program and she decided to move forward anyway and learn as much from running it that first time as possible so that she could then improve it over time, and that she has. So I think that is a great example of what is possible if you stick at it, and we need to stop putting so much emphasis on what happens in your first launch. Now, if your first launch is successful, that is also amazing. But again, we still need to focus on repeating the process, and that's where the real gold is. Now, a lot of people don't believe that they could make, in their gut, they could make 100K in a year from an online course, but I am here to tell you that it's absolutely possible. And as I was actually thinking about this topic, I wanted to break it down, right? So I started writing some notes, and I came up with 9 steps that are going to help you to achieve this. within that 1 year period. And before we dive into that, I'm going to share with you the 9 steps. I actually want you to stop and think for a second. What is going to be possible for you in your life, in your business, if you are able to hit 100K this year in course sales? What would that change for you? What would it mean to you? What things would now be possible if you got that result? Now, for many of you, it would mean not having to do time-sucking client work anymore. It could mean that you're finally able to leave your 9-to-5 job or your part-time job and going all in on your business. It might mean that you free up some of your time so you're now able to spend it on your health and fitness, or maybe if you haven't been feeling that great, you actually have the time to recover because you have a business model that's going to allow you to do that while still giving you financially what you need in order to be able to thrive. And, I think that honestly, we do need to be making more than 100K in our business a year to thrive, especially when you think you've got to pay tax on that and all that kind of stuff. But it's a really good base to then go, well, once you hit 100K in 12 months, you can take it anywhere. There is literally no limit to where you could take it. So let's dive into the 9 key steps. And I am going to move through these fairly quickly, and maybe I can point you towards other episodes where I dive into some of them more on a deeper level. So the first one is to get really, really clear that this is your focus and understanding that less is actually more here. Sure, you can keep freelancing, you can keep providing services, but less really is more. And the more you go, this is my focus for this year, the more likely this is going to happen that you actually hit your online course goals, because there is work involved and it's going to take your time and energy. So if you want to achieve this, I do really think that you need to prioritize what's going to be most important to you. Is it to keep building an agency? Is it to get more one-on-one clients? Or are you actually more dedicated to this online course thing? Which, if you want to achieve this goal, it is going to require dedication. I actually have a freebie that is 100% focused on this exact topic of how to transition out of service-based business, delivering services, to have more of a freedom-based business. And if you go to the homepage on my website, it's there, loublakely.com. You will see it and you'll be able to download it, and that will walk you through the process of actually how I freed up my time so that I was able to do this and make this transition. Now, the second step is to price your course for success. And I highly recommend that you create a signature program rather than a whole bunch of low-cost programs. You can do that later if you want to, but if you're starting out with an online course, your best bet in terms of being able to scale it is to create a signature program. So that's based around the at least $1,000 mark, and you can go from there. Now, this is most likely the process that you take people through in your business already, or a way that you've helped people in the past that has had a pretty big impact, and it has to have a transformation that people are willing to pay for, and they're willing to pay that amount for. Now, the third step is to pre-sell it the first time to get your first sales. And yes, make sure that people want it. Now, I've already spoken a little bit about this, but I am a huge advocate for going into your first launch without the product actually having been created yet, but you need a really solid outline and you need to know what's going to be in the course. Obviously, you need all the details around the offer, so the price, the name, that kind of thing. But that first time you are pre-selling it before you actually create it, making sure that people want it before you create it, and essentially you're getting paid to create it, which is the ideal situation. There's a few reasons why I recommend this. Firstly, because if you don't do this, you are likely to spend far too long creating the course and then potentially risking going into a course launch and no one actually wanting what you've spent so much of your time and energy creating, and we do not want that. So there's also a lot of procrastination that comes up when you've got to create your course first, because you have to motivate yourself to create something that you don't know if anyone even wants or not. And then when you sit down to create it, you start to wonder, do people actually want or need this? Well, you may know that people need it, but whether they want it is a completely different story. So that is another reason why I recommend to pre-sell it. This way of doing it also means that you've got paying customers who are expecting each lesson each week. Like I do recommend that that's how you do it. So you drip one lesson per week. And there's people actually waiting for it, which is a huge push for you in terms of being held accountable to actually follow through and deliver, which I think is key. Okay, so we're pre-selling it the first time to get your first sales. Now, the fourth step is to start with a minimum viable product and improve it as your customers work through the process of actually doing the course and helping them get results and noticing what they're asking for, and then using that feedback and information to actually improve the course. So your course is getting better over time. You may notice that people are asking questions around certain things, like around certain video concepts that you've delivered in a video. And then you may realize actually there's a lot missing that I need to add to that. So your first original lesson that you create may need to be improved. So that's why I think it's really valuable to start with a minimum viable product. You can literally just use a webcam, and however you're delivering your course, whether it's face to camera or with slides, depending on what you're teaching, you just like make it so it's imperfect, but you're sharing the information, because at the end of the day, people have signed up for the information, not to have all the polished experience, but the information not even be there. And yes, there are some courses out there like that. So create what you can for now. It does not need to be perfect. It does not need to be studio quality. You don't need to hire professional editors. You don't need to hire a video studio or any of that stuff. Just start with a minimum viable product and then use each round as an opportunity for you to actually get feedback about what may need to be improved inside the course. Don't think or don't put that pressure on yourself that your first iteration of it has to be the best, because trust me, even if you try and make it the best today, there's going to be some feedback that comes in tomorrow that makes you want to improve it even more. Now, the fifth step is to launch once a quarter. I believe this is truer now than it ever has been, because people right now need a lot of touch points. They need to see people showing up with reliability and consistency in order to trust people more, because there is skepticism in every area, in every market. People are really looking at where to spend their money and how to reduce it. So how can you overcome that? It is about being there, making the sales more often, always showing up. I think this whole launch once a year model, it's great if you already have the base, so you can definitely move to that. But if you're starting out and you want to have real impact in that first year, you do need to launch more often. So I would say at least once a quarter. That gives you 4 launches within the year. And by the time you've completed 4 launches, you not only have made more money because you've launched more, but you have actually developed a real solid skill of launching, of knowing what to do, in different scenarios as they come up across those launches as well, which means that you're just more and more skilled at this, which means that you're going to be able to do it more often with less stress and actually be able to show up and make more money at the end of the day. Now, step 6 is that after each one of these launches, do a very solid debrief of how that launch went. That includes like writing down all of the details of what you offered, what you did each day, because trust me, you will forget. And also gathering all the data, so the numbers of what actually happened at each step of the launch. Taking that data, really looking at it, understanding it, and finding ways to improve based on the information that you have. Quite often we base all of this on how we feel, and that is part of the debrief, like what felt good, what didn't, what felt yuck, what wouldn't we do again, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the data really tells us the story of what the customer wants and what the customer has reacted to in a good or a bad way. And that data then helps us improve for next time. So this is a really important part of it. And I have to say, for the kind of one launch wonders out there, they don't do the debrief because they're too stuck in the feels, and then they never go and launch again because they don't see it from a taking yourself one step back from it, realizing it's not all about your emotions, and realizing that there's information here that the launch is giving you to go and improve something. Like, it's not so much about us, it's actually about the customer and how can we serve them better. And looking at the numbers is actually going to show us the answers to all of this. And then you take those improvements into your next launch. So 5 and 6 very intertwined in terms of launching once a quarter and then debriefing each launch and improving each time. So ideally, your launches are growing. So if you look at this over 4 launches across 1 year, your first launch is going to look quite different to your 4th launch because you've had so much feedback, and which gives you the ability to improve along the way. Now, number 7 is to really double down on getting your clients or customers results and therefore getting lots of testimonials. If you really focus on this in your first year, you will do well. This may mean that you give more in that first year than you may in your subsequent years of having this program. It might mean that you do spend a little bit more time. It might mean that you put on some extra calls, that kind of thing that's really going to help people. And part of it is actually about you getting that feedback like we spoke about earlier, and actually getting the feedback of what's missing so that you can add things in that people need without overwhelming them, which in turn will help them get better results. And then make sure you have a really solid process in place for getting testimonials. And definitely don't sleep on the whole getting testimonials thing. This is a thing that people put off, or it just never happens. So look at the levers that you can pull in order to get the testimonials. It could be asking for them throughout the program. It could be about asking for them when people actually share wins, even though they haven't finished the program. And there will be people that you are able to develop really good relationships with who will give you really solid testimonials based on the results that they have gotten from your work. So definitely use those to your advantage. And over time, if you've got a good course, you should be getting testimonials from your first launch and then using those and leveraging them for the next round and the next round and the next round. So it all builds up over time. Now, step number 8 is to leverage ads to grow your audience in between launches. And I haven't really talked much about Facebook ads on this podcast. It is something I actually specialize in, which is funny that I haven't talked about it yet. We're at episode 76-ish, and it isn't a topic I've delved that much into. And the reason why is because I don't actually recommend that you should be running ads on your first launch. So most of the episodes on this podcast are more focused on that first launch, and ads are not something you should be doing on your first launch because your course isn't validated yet. We actually want to see that there's a real need, and utilizing your existing warm audience in that first launch is really where it's at, looking at your warm leads. But over time, from launch to launch, you definitely do need to be focusing on building your audience so that the next time you launch, you're just not launching to the same group of people. So we always want new people coming in. And I recommend using ads for this because it is easy for you to be able to do this at scale than showing up on organic social media every day. Now, it may be that you love organic social media and that is great, but it is also quite slow for most people. Whereas with ads, it really comes down to you're buying your time back essentially by paying for ads. So you are able to get the result you want a lot faster. Yes, it is going to cost you money, but it's also like you're buying back your time. You're making the timeline shorter by spending money to get visible. But you're also buying back your time that you would be spending on organic social media. I do also recommend that you do have organic social media going as well as ads, but ads can help you get you to where you need to go faster. So I recommend bringing this in between your first and your second launch. And I actually recommend you focusing this on actual list building in between your course launches, not so much ads to promote your course. So I used to do Facebook ads as a done-for-you service, and I've managed a huge ad spend, like it's well over $1 million on Facebook ads. And I always used to have people reach out to me saying, help, I've launched this program and no one's buying it. I need to do ads. Can you help me? Or basically like, let's do something. And I'm just like, when's it closing? Be like next week or this week. Be like, it's too late. It really is too late at this point. The time to start ads is well before your launch even starts. Okay, so use those ads to your advantage to grow your audience in between launches. That is where it's really at. Okay, and number 9, final step, is to stay committed to your launching schedule. So I actually recommend going through your calendar at the start of the year, putting in all of the important stuff where you're not able to work on your business. So that's school holidays, that is trips away, time when you know that you're going to be off with family and you definitely don't want to be launching or even delivering at that point. Okay, so put all that stuff in your calendar and then look at the time slots that are left. And I want you to schedule in that one launch a quarter, regardless, even if you haven't started yet, okay? And you have an idea for a course, go and do that, because you never know what's going to happen over that year-long period. But if you have it scheduled in, then it is way more likely to happen, and actually stay committed to it, because it's so easy to move stuff around in our calendar. So easy, and we all do it, but let's actually commit to those 4 launches and make them happen no matter what. And if you do that, if you follow this list and you actually do everything in this list, you are going to have a very successful online course within 12 months. I have no doubt. Like, this is foolproof. I hope this episode has inspired you to take action, start moving forward, start looking at it from a 12-month perspective instead of a one launch and we'll see how it goes perspective, and really commit to showing up for what you want, because there's no doubt about it. This is such a great business model, but you have to be committed to it, and you have to look at it past we'll see how it goes mentality. Now, if you want help with any of this in terms of, well, how do I actually do this? In terms of pre-selling, in terms of doing launch debriefs, in terms of a launch strategy that's going to work for you, that you're going to be able to deliver 4 times a year, then I definitely recommend that you jump into Moneymakers when it launches. You can join the waitlist, which I'll share on the show notes, or you can just head right there. So it's loublakely.com/waitlist. So if you are committed to this, you really want the outcome of what it would look like to make $100K in your online business just from online courses in the next 12 months, then jump on that waitlist, because I will be teaching you the exact system that is going to take you there. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a renewed sense of enthusiasm for getting started, and you are ready to step up, make the commitment to yourself that you're going to make this happen, and start taking the steps to get there. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love if you could take a screenshot of your podcast player and share it to your Instagram stories and tag me at @LouBlakely_. I absolutely want to share this podcast with as many people as possible, and that really helped me to do that. So I hope to see you on the next episode coming soon. And in the meantime, have a great week. Bye. Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.